All right, everybody. TW, thanks for logging in tonight. I really appreciate you being on the call. And we're going to get started, everybody. It's nice to have everybody on. My name is Amy Bonus, and also with me is my dear friend and also my co-worker, my co-partner for the last 25 years is Irina Bennett. And I'm going to make a formal introduction to her so that everybody knows who sort of we are. And the four things that we're going to be covering today is really how to assess your financial situation, what you can do to, if you are, going through this life-changing situation. Should you keep the house? Should you sell the house? We're going to talk a little bit about creating your own financial identity through, and also how we lenders look at income, debt, how credit scores can play into things, how you get sort of a fair situation when you go through this type of life-changing event. So that's sort of what we're planning to cover. And of course, we also are very open to questions. First of all, I'll send everybody this PowerPoint, so I'm not going to read every single thing and every single accolade. But Irina is a new home specialist. She's a certified divorce specialist. She owns her own investment properties. She's listed among the top realtors in America. And so we're so happy to have her on. She's been in the business almost 30 years.
You may want to show the screen, that screen that shows the book and everything. I only see you.
Okay, let me go back and stop the share and reshare. Thanks for telling me.
Yes.
Great. Stop the share, and now we will reshare. Okay, what do you see on the screen now?
Right now, the presentation about it.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, sure.
If you guys have questions, you can raise your hand or just put them in the chat. That would be great. Okay, and you guys, I've been in the business a long time too. So again, I'm not going to read every single thing that's on here, but I'm a divorce mortgage specialist. I'm also a landlord and a real estate investor myself, my husband and I, and have been in the mortgage business, three decades. So we're here to really help you navigate, this, again, life-changing event. By the way, Irina is also an author, and she's written a book on negotiating and finding your answers through a divorce, and I'll let her talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But she's also an accomplished author. Okay, so when we're talking about assessing your financial, situation, it first starts with, what is a separation agreement? And I'm going to ask Irina, if you don't mind, Irina, to sort of take over these slides, since I know you know all about it.
Yes, unfortunately, right? So because I went through a couple of divorces myself, and it was not fun, but it helped me to, learn a lot that I can share. And so it was all new to me. It started with the separation agreement. I did not know what it is, who prepares this, what goes into separation agreement. And it's actually just things that the spouses or soon-to-be ex-spouses can agree on. And going through several of those separation agreements, I can suggest to think through it first before you actually run out and hire an attorney. Attorneys can put it in the legal terms for you together, but going through negotiations, if you are still in the speaking terms with your partner, you will save a lot of money, a lot of headache, a lot of time if you just put it in writing prior to having an attorney step into your divorce, if it's possible, of course. In one of those divorces I had, it was possible. In another one, we could not communicate. So it was incredibly costly. And also it took almost a year and a half just to get through some terms of the separation agreement. And so what do you discuss in the separation agreement? You would put in there who stays in the house, if you want to sell the house, how you gonna divide the other assets, who is gonna live in the house possibly, or you both gonna move out and rent it out, how to divide, and decide on the spousal support, and of course the children, the custody, the vacation schedule, all of this. And you can Google it. There is the whole list of things that, important to clarify in this separation agreement. But I highly recommend to just sit down by yourself or with your spouse and go through all of the hot issues, and how to get legally separated in North Carolina. A lot of people ask that question, and the most important is the intent. You can be living together intending to separate, or you can, because sometimes you just don't have an ability to move out and rent something else or be somewhere else. But even if you live in separate but don't have an intent to divorce, you may still not be considered separated. So you really need to have that intent that you decided that you're going to get a divorce, and so you are going for the separation. So really they want to see you physically separated, having two different addresses, and utility bills and so on to be separated. There is really nothing to be filed. If you can agree upon certain terms and do separation agreement, then it will be, of course, legally filed and probably reviewed by one or both attorneys, and then signed in front of the notary, and that will be your document. But a lot of people unfortunately cannot come to the agreement. That, I think, is the next slide. They unable to come to the agreement, and so they have to get the attorneys involved, pay a lot of money, spend a lot of time. It's a lot of turmoil that you go through if you're unable to communicate with your spouse and get an agreement. And so, yeah, it can be very like a roller coaster. And it affects, yes, it's very I feel for everybody who is going through. And so here we want to answer some of your questions to elevate that anxiety and the pain of, going through all this. So, but definitely think through it before you hire legal help, what you want and how to get through it for the separation agreement.
So if you are thinking going through a separation, first of all, we're not touching today on, the counseling and what people emotionally go through. We're just sort of sticking to the money part of it. But I mean, it is not a bad idea to get help through it, because it can be, really hard, and it can be really easy. I think the most important thing from our perspective when we're talking about like real estate and assets is to assess your financial situation, and you are trying to figure out, what to do and where to look. And one of the first ways that you do that is to look at your assets, and also to look at your debts. But things like, whose name, the checking, the savings, the retirement, who is on the beneficiaries of these, what equity do you have in your real estate? Do you guys have a home equity line that hasn't been accessed? And you also look at your debts, your credit card debts, like what joint credit cards do you have? Again, the home equity line is sort of a big deal, because if you and I are married and then, we're getting a divorce, I could, or you could, charge up all that money on that equity line, which could be a couple $100,000, and you not know about it. I could just write the check, And then that would affect the equity, and who knows what would happen with that money. So you definitely want to be on top of, even pulling a joint credit report if you don't know, like if there's any personal loans or loans that are not really going to show up. Do you owe the IRS any money? What about the car loans? Just all owned property that you have, all inherited property. If you're in the military, it's completely different because there's sort of different rules on how long you've been in the military and what happens with the pension of the military and things like that. If you have given your spouse to be or significant other a credit card, like from one of your accounts, and you've put them on as an authorized user, so that they could charge things on your card. You also want to remember that, keep track of all of that, and maybe take them off. If there's 401k loans that you took money out to put down on a house or anything like that, money that you owe to family members. So it's a big deal to know all this stuff. Like if you want it to end fairly, then you want to make sure that you have a whole picture. Okay. Are there any questions so far? I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you have any, I encourage you to put them in. No problem. Okay. And Irina, could you talk a little bit about the home?
Yeah, so obviously when people get divorced, majority have the family home. That's the biggest asset. And a lot of times one or the other spouse are very attached to the home, don't want to move, would like to keep the house. And, it's a big question, should you stay or should you go with the family home? And a lot of times people don't analyze it they don't look in it detailed, in the details, all the details. They just missing the point, they being emotional and they just want to stay. And a lot of times when we get those to talk to those people and review the situation with taxes, with insurance, with HOA fees, it becomes not very smart to keep the house or stay in the house sometimes, And of course, Amy would look in the financial side and to see how the separation agreement needs to be structured so that if you are the one who is going to leave the house and would want to eventually purchase something in the future, that the separation agreement is structured so that you qualify for the next house, for the next purchase. So you really need to analyze, is that an asset for you once the family is divided? Because it possibly was a big house for the entire family. It could be too big for one person, or kids and a mom or the dad living just in that house. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to stay there due to maybe schools, the family, the friends, the church, the new jobs. So there is a lot of those things that, if you can get in a quiet state of mind without all this, commotion and heartbreak feelings and stuff, and just decide, is it really a wise decision to keep the house and stay in the same house with the same memories? So what are the options? So a lot of people ask me, what are my options? The obvious one is to sell. And a lot of times at this point, if you bought the house a few years back, that's probably a lot of equity in the house. And maybe it's a good idea to just capitalize on that equity and divide it right away instead of taking a possible other path to see what happens in the future. Because don't forget, I just talked to the client this morning and they didn't divorce. His wife died and now he postponed selling the house, going through a lot of heartache and emotional things, and now he has to pay taxable gains. So that can happen to the spouse who keeps the house. Eventually they're going to do something with this house, and they may be selling now as a single individual, and then they will be exempt only up to 250,000 in profits instead of the 500 if you're a married couple. So there is a lot of those things to think through. Of course, you can refinance the house, refinance your spouse out, and then you also will have to qualify for the new mortgage payment. And of course, if you buy out your spouse, that mortgage will become larger because that profit has to be now divided and possibly financed in to buy out the spouse if you don't have the cash to pay them out, and possibly you can qualify for home equity line. But we just discussed before the webinar how incredibly volatile the interest rates on the home equity line of credit, right, Amy? So that could be a slippery slope to go by because your interest rate can fluctuate quite a bit, and that payment might not be a very comfortable payment for you. So, and of course, we see cases when the spouses decide to keep the house so the children can finish the schools, and then only one of the spouses, of course, lives in the house. And then there is a lot of other questions that come up. Who is going to do maintenance, who is going to do repairs, who is going to upkeep the loan, HOA fees, and so on and so forth. So it's a big decision, and there is a lot to think about and walk through. And so that's why we offer face-to-face consultation, personal consultations, just to go through your specific situation.
And thank you, Irina. So we'll move on to question number, not our question, our talking point number 3. And just a note, if you were to go out and buy a house right now, whatever you pay for it, that's something that's sort of permanent, right? You can't really change what you pay for the house. But the interest rate is something that you're probably going to be dating, because an interest rate fluctuates. And at the moment, interest rates are, somewhere in the 7-8% range. And it wouldn't surprise me if they went to 9% before they come back down. And when they do come back down, when the interest rates drop 1 point, NAR, National Association of Realtors, says that 5 million new buyers are going to come into the market, which is going to drive prices up. And you're going to see double-digit appreciation. So if you were going to buy a home, you'd want to sort of buy now versus in a year and a half or 2 years, because to get double-digit appreciation is not average appreciation. And so you could make a lot of money in a short period of time, which is why some people may keep their houses now and hold on to it and sell it. But then you're always up against, well, if you sell, that means you're probably going to be buying. So in terms of protecting your assets, protecting your credit, if you do have any equity lines or business lines of credit that are joint, you definitely want to consider freezing those. In fact, we've known people that have had just horror stories of their spouse. I have a friend of mine who will remain unnamed, who they built an in-ground pool in their house, and the in-ground pool, they owed about $60,000 on it. So a check was written from their account for $60,000. And so both, the wife assumed that $60,000 was going to pay off the pool. And turns out when she went to refinance or sell, I can't remember at the moment, she found out there was a lien on her house for $60,000 for that pool that her ex-spouse just wrote the check, and who knows, what they did with that money. So any joint accounts, you want to make sure that you do close those. Same when it comes to credit cards. At the very minimum, you want to discuss that with your spouse. You want to move any auto deposits like your paycheck and things like that. You want to move those to your own personal accounts so that your paychecks and things like that are not getting put into a joint account. And you don't want to open up, I know this is obvious, any new credit with your spouse, but people still do it when they're going through, the decision of getting separated. So I just want to let you know that. Now, if you are going to receive child support or alimony, if the children are 8 years old or 6 years old or 10 years old, you have really no questions when it comes to if we, the lender, see that as income on your loan. As long as the child support or alimony will continue for 3 years or longer, it is considered income. However, if one of your kids is 15, child support ends usually when they're 18. So we lenders ask for a copy of your birth certificates for your children to check their ages. The 3-year rule pretty much applies. If you're both on the loan, that is also going to affect the person leaving the house. If you're deciding to keep it, they're going to want you to refinance, as Irina mentioned earlier, and get them off the loan and pay them off, their share of what you guys have decided. Also, you may have to pay child support or alimony, and that child support or alimony payment that you're paying is going to be a debt. It's going to be figured into your debt to income ratio, right? Any questions on this at all? Okay, it makes sense, right? It's pretty straightforward. Irina, I know that we're moving on to a different thing, but can you talk a little bit about what people should do in terms of like a list and stuff?
Yeah, so ask yourself a question, what do I really want from the divorce? And I started by making lists. And you want to make as detailed list as possible. Maybe it will be emotional the first time around, it will be very, very long. And then you sit down the next day or another time when you're feeling a little less emotional, and you go through and you kind of grade everything and say, what is the most important to me? What is a make it or break it? What is worthwhile to, go after? And then kind of leave quite a few things behind just so you can shorten this process, because on average in North Carolina, for example, it takes 3 to 4 years to divorce, and it's not cheap. It's about $100,000 to $200,000. So on average, $150,000 for divorce. So this list will also help your divorce attorney to be a lot more on target. You already kind of pre-negotiated it with yourself, and possibly if you're in communication with your spouse, to narrow it down to the most contentious items, like who wants the beach house, who is going to get the dog, or something like that, so that you kind of don't spend the attorney's time and your money to decide those items. So yeah, just keep the list running. And yeah, my list got smaller and smaller and smaller as the time went by, and the cost was exuberant. So they don't recommend to name every plate and the cup and all that, so it's not worth it.
What makes it a valid separation agreement? Like what makes it so that it actually is valid, Irina? Do you know?
You just have to take it to the bank and sign it and notarize the signatures. Yes, it has to be in writing, of course. And a lot of people just take it to their divorce attorneys and just put it in the legal format. There is no form. Some people ask me if you can give me a form, but there is no form because each one is very specific. There are certain items and subjects present, topics present in it, but they are very specific to that particular situation for that particular couple. So, but yeah, have to be signed by both parties and notarized. So that will make it legal.
So, the divorce rate in America right now is actually up, and it's up because people have so much money in the equity in their homes. So they have made so much money that now there's something to split up. So for those of you that maybe were not on the house and maybe not on the loan, there are also down payment assistance programs with the state of North Carolina. I know some of you guys on the webinar tonight are not in North Carolina, but if you are, they're pretty fantastic. Even if you have been a homeowner before, there's also this 1% down without any mortgage insurance. So you have this loan program, 1% down without any mortgage insurance, and you could even own another home right now and get this program. Or you can possibly qualify for getting $15,000 down. So can we just do a little recap, Irina, of the talking points? I want to just make sure that we have covered what we promised everybody tonight. How to assess your financial situation. And again, that has so much to do with you knowing like what all of your joint credit cards are, what all of your assets are, the beneficiaries of your 401ks, your personal loans, what properties you own. I mean, you're entitled to that in North Carolina, right, Irina?
Yes, you need to know, because a lot of times in North Carolina, it's one to buy, but two to sell. So,
Excuse me,
we
you
have
know
seen
where 1000 Brentwood Road?
who is that?
Do you
We
know
didn't
where
hear the question. We didn't hear the question.
2000 Brentwood Road is?
1000 Brentwood.
Road.
It's gonna be on the other entrance. You better come out. Gonna make a right.
Oh,
Okay, Jilma, I'm just going to mute you for just 1 second. It
Yes.
sounds like you're giving directions.
yes.
Um,
So,
Okay,
yeah, you wanna know all the financial information that will be, divided, all the assets that will be divided, and also the liabilities too, because one spouse could have taken some business loans, and even though the business is now a family business and it will be split, but also the liabilities, the loans, and will be split too. And so we have seen in our businesses where one of the spouses bought some real estate property and signed the mortgage and has a loans that the other spouse doesn't know about. So all of those things will come up during the negotiations, and you want to know about it.
so the 4 talking points we talked about at the very beginning were how to assess your financial situation, going through your checking, your savings, all of your assets, decide about the house, right? Irina talked a little bit about, are you going to keep the house? Are you going to do a cash out refinance? Are you going to get bought out? Are they going to get bought out? Are you going to sell the property, or are you going to wait for that double-digit appreciation that is going to happen when interest rates fall down in the next year and a half? Make sure that you know about your income, your debt, we already spoke about, like your credit, like are they going to make payments late? Like if they're staying in the house and you moved out and they're responsible for the mortgage payment and don't make it and you're on that loan, you won't be able to get a mortgage loan for 12 months because they're messing up your credit. So it's really important that you know all these things and how to establish your own individual financial footprint by stopping your auto drafts, by opening up your own checking, your own savings, your own credit in your name alone. Okay. Irina, have I missed anything?
No, that's very good. Obviously, you need to be very financially savvy and responsible. And a lot of times in the couples, one spouse designates the other spouse to take care of all the bills, all the, accounts, and they don't know about their maybe investment accounts. So when you thinking of separating or going through separation and you have the access, you have not moved out from the family home, it's very easy to obtain those records of the investment accounts, 401 accounts, all the other data, even a lot of times you will need some birth certificates, like you mentioned, for the children, passports, so social security numbers, previous addresses. I mean, all that information is very important for your future, and to go through the separation as quickly as possible and with less pain and suffering. So collecting the data, analyzing the data, talking to maybe a divorce coach, a real estate agent, and financial advisor is imperative. Like, I give you another example. I'm in real estate, and so it was a little easier for me to understand when my lawyer was asking for an appraisal or a business appraisal or property appraisal. But it was very expensive because I had to do 3 appraisals per house. So before the marriage, during the marriage, and after the separation. So it's 3 different values. And so it's quite quite an expense. And you also, when you hire an appraiser, they have to be approved by the court, or agreed upon by both attorneys. And so one of my attorneys just told me to go ahead and get the appraisals done. So I paid for all the appraisals, all the homes, to find out later that that appraiser was not approved. It was not negotiated between the parties. I had to do it again. And so, yeah, if you can avoid
That is
all
not
this,
cool.
yes.
That is
quite
not cool.
expensive.
Irina, do you want to go through the bonuses for today's participation?
Yes, absolutely. We have a very good divorce packet of all the essential information and data that you will need to collect to make it easier, and be prepared to meet with your attorney. It will be easier for them to guide you through the process as well. And of course, I was not a very wise monkey. So after the divorce, I decided to start this group. All the unfortunate things that I did, expensive things that I did, mistakes that I did, I can actually share through that Facebook group and answer some of the questions. Yeah, it looks like this. So I said, don't lose all of your bananas in your divorce. And so hopefully, with all these stories that we now heard and had to go through ourselves, that you can benefit from, a good point. So join the Facebook group, ask us questions, and we will have more presentations like this. You can also order the book, the divorce book. It's very helpful. It goes through in details through a lot of those points and topics that you would want to review by yourself, and then ask the questions and discuss it with your divorce attorney. And divorce attorneys are really good if you know what to ask them about. If you have good questions, they give you very good answers. So, but you want to be prepared, because they don't have time to explain. And if they do explain something to you, it's going to cost you. So,
Right. And so having your separation agreement, or having the discussions of what you're going to split up and all that, and having all of your tax returns and all your bank statements and all that, as Irina and I have spoken about many times, but we were going through our designation to be, these specialists for divorce. It saves so much money if you have all that stuff ahead of leaving. Now, if you just have any questions for either Irina or I, you can scan this in, or you can just give us a call. I'm going to share our information with you, or email us. It's all confidential, and we're here to sort of help you through this. For those of you that are looking at these, special programs that are out there, even if you have been a homeowner, you can actually take advantage of some of these programs like this one, 1% down with no mortgage insurance. Here's our contact information. Please reach out if you have any questions at all. I know when we teach these webinars, people don't like to ask personal questions. The QR code for the first slide, you said didn't open up. Are you talking about the divorce packet? Is that what you mean, Tara?
Yeah, that one, the one on the left, I couldn't get that one to open.
Okay. Can
you
you
can email it.
Yeah, you know what? We have you registered, so we can, well, Irina, can we just email out to everybody the divorce packet?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, if you
It's
can,
very helpful. It's a state approved packet, so you will be ahead and will prepare it if you just go through it.
Thank
Can
you.
yeah, no, thanks for letting us know, Tara. I'll let Madison know that this doesn't work. Irina, do you want to email that to me and I'll send it out to everybody and CC you on the group? Is that agreeable?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, everybody. We want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to us, okay? And
I want to help you.
you're not
So-
alone. You're not alone.
Not alone.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
no problem. You guys take care. Take care of
Yeah.
yourselves.
Have a
Ciao.
good evening. Bye.
Bye.